if you started it with like, Gary, nice guys finish first, like what are people missing? Or if you went the other way and said, hey, Gary, you really hate the nice guys finish last. What are people missing? It's similar to the hustle conversation, the work ethic conversation. There's multiple ingredients. It's why the book is subtitled Ingredients. There are multiple ingredients that I think stand out as a consistent North Star blueprint that have sustainable, enjoyable success attached to them. And I think work ethic, and I think kindness, and I think curiosity, and several others are pretty standard. Now, some people are stronger at others, and that's why there's so many variable differences of so many different things out there, but it works for me, and like I really enjoy being nice. Like I like the way that, you know this as well because you've watched this journey from me being like someone a couple people knew to a lot of more people know. You know, I've always enjoyed the fact that even today, like the people that know me best have the best feelings towards me. That's a nice feeling, especially when you've become a public figure and a lot of people have a lot of different takes. There's a sense of like calmness that comes along with, well, like as people get closer to me, they have a better taste of me. I'd be much happier with that than the reverse, which I think a lot of people in the world have, which is they may be liked optically on the outside, but as you get closer to their inner circle, it gets more rotten quickly.
Yeah. The interesting thing about kindness is it feels like the thing that most people probably think they have. And when you double click, there's aspects of their personality. And I'll even like open up, like there are times where I find myself saying things like, oh, this person's annoying. Like, you know, is cutting all negativity, does that like level it up? Or how do you really own kindness?
I think it's understanding negativity versus cutting it out. We're all humans. I mean, I'm going to go to the garden tonight, and the things I'm going to say to Jimmy Butler are going to be completely inappropriate, though I love Jimmy Butler and represents so much of what I believe in. But for those 3 hours, I will not be kind. It's the context. And like, you know, like every human's going to gossip a little bit or like talk to their best friend in the office about somebody else in the office. I think the question becomes, why? You know, I ask myself, why do I not spend a lot of time tearing down other people? It starts with because I'm not tearing down myself. I don't really have a whole lot of envy. You know, I don't deploy a lot of jealousy. I don't hold resentment towards my parents or other important figures in my life for anything that I deem that they did that wasn't good, right? And I think that's a very common trait for the masses. I know people who just can't let go, just spend all their time on jealousy, envy, and resentment, and then it manifests. It's in their subconscious. And then like every day to day, if they see someone who's happy, they get triggered to kind of point out what they're not good at or what they're unhappy. So I think we're all human and everyone has it, but I think getting to a place where you figure out your relationship with yourself, I think can be quite powerful. And I think always has a direct indication of how people feel about others. I always believe that the bullies in the world, the nasties of the world, the not able to be civil with others of the world are always in a really tough spot with themselves. Man, if I could wish anything for people on earth besides good health, for everyone who's listening in this great community, because I know the kind that you would cultivate, I just think to myself, like, who's a listener of this based on, I know a good amount about you and like I've been watching you for a long time, like, you know, there's like a really high standard of human on here, but I think a lot of them are blind to certain aspects. And I think the biggest one is like, just be like easier on yourself. Like the extreme level of judgment people put on themselves because they play the game of comparison. Like the enjoyment I get to see Kev or Tim Ferriss or I mean, anybody like Sarah Blakely and like I don't know, like you, like anybody, like I get thrilled when I see people are winning, as if that's coming out of mine. I've always been baffled by people's inability to understand that the world is abundant and nobody is taking out of yours. If 50 people showed up tomorrow that are incredible public speakers, not a dollar is taken out of my pocket. There's plenty of speaking gigs I could do, you know, if you know, and so I think I really wish people understood that. And I think understanding who you're trying to accomplish for is also very important. There's a lot of people listening here who are still trying to make their parents proud, even though their parents are not capable of ever giving that, cosign to their child, because they themselves never got it from their parents. So a lot of people blame their parents and haven't done the work of figuring out that they should actually be blaming their grandparents, which then leads them to actually realize they should be blaming their great-grandparents. And it becomes this game where you can give your parents a lot more leeway, which actually a lot of times for people is an unlock. And it's kind of like you can get it off your chest. And, I think, I'm very passionate about this subject matter.
Are there things people that are listening can do to start to build better self-awareness? Is there like a training regimen or some activity that you've seen be helpful?
I think one is to really start to make the people closer to them feel comfortable with giving them truth and candor. So like finding that best friend where like, if you can go to that one place where you think whether it's your mom or dad or best friend or spouse, where you're like, hey, I'm actually starting a journey of self-awareness. And I know that I've always been the kind of person that can get very defensive, or it can lead to a fight, or you just love me so much you don't want to hurt my feelings, but no bullshit. Can you just, answer a couple questions for me? Like, how everybody says like, I have all this talent. Like, am I lazy? Like, if you can get a person that loves you to a place where they'll tell you the truth, you can really start to unlock some conversations that can give you some affirmation on something you've been fighting off. People have to be ready, right? I had to be ready at 30. For 8 years, I knew health and fitness was something I wanted to be, but it was finally on a flight from Houston to New York with my head against the window where I was like, it's time. Like for a lot of people right now, they're hearing this and they're pushing against it, like, nah, because they're not ready. For another listener today, this was the moment. Like in the last week or two, they just got ready of like, you know what? I just want my life to be happier. And this is part of the equation. Like, look, out of all the things, work ethic, passion, kindness, I will say that accountability, I would argue, is probably the quickest indicator to how happy you are. If you are truly interested in being accountable.
To yourself?
Yeah, to the whole thing. To yourself, to everyone around you, to every situation, to every relationship, to the truth. Like when, I'll give you a good example. In my 20s and 30s, I would struggle so much with firing people and giving them candorous feedback that almost every exit at Wine Library and early VaynerMedia was sloppy. They stayed a year longer because I wrestled with it. And then when I would do it, it would just be a shit show. Like I'd ask my cousin Bobby to do it, even though I was the one who interacted with the person every day, 500 days a year. I would flub it. I would go in quick and get out with any, I would talk for 3 minutes about how they're the greatest and be like, but that being said, we're gonna have to let you go, and they'd be confused. And so there was 200-300 people over a 20-year period, back to what I said earlier, that were close to me and did actually know me, who did not have a good taste towards me. What did I do in my 20s and early 30s? I would blame them. I'd be like, how could that person be mad at me? They were they were the worst. They were so incapable at their job. I was such a good guy for letting them even be in the company for another year or two. Look what's happened. They've not been successful in their last 2 places. And it took me getting into my late 30s and really actually into my mid 40s. Fuck my late 30s, not my late 30s. It got into the last 3 or 4 or 5 years where I was like, you know what? My lack of candor is the kryptonite to the thing I said 15 minutes earlier, which is I love that people that know me like me a lot. Asterisk, people that have worked for me that were not good at their job, in my subjective opinion, that I let sit around because I was too scared or was not interested in conflict. And I created so much resentment and passive aggressiveness that eventually it boiled over and then they were fired. That group of 100 to 200 people on earth don't have the same good taste towards me than the 10,000 that have been close to me in my life. That took me being accountable to that's on me because I struggled with candor, which is why in the book, the last book that you're referencing, the reason I wrote 12 and a half was strictly at the end of the day to talk about kind candor. This concept that I rebranded it to myself and now I'm better at candor, but it took a lot of professional and personal losing for me to get to that point where I could be accountable and be like, hey, okay, tough guy, you're good at a lot of shit. That's nice. So are a lot of people. This is something you stink at. and like will continue to be a problem in your life unless you're able to build. And I'm proud of where I'm at with Candor now. I'm a 5, I'm a 4.7, I'm a 5.2. It's a lot better than a 1. And I got to tell you, in the last 2-3 years at VaynerX, the holding company, VaynerMedia, the agency, the company's much stronger because of it.